Okay, so here's the back side, the bottom side of the canoe. This is the rear end. So if somebody has penetrated through the vinyl here and has gone through the second core and into the base core, I'm going to actually be fixing that today. I will be showing you that. And we've been playing around with protectants and sealants. This canoe's been sitting in the sun, so there's some sun fade. This is the kind of canoe you don't want to leave in the sun. It has been definitely left in the sun. There are a few gouges in it that are past the first level, so we are going to fill those little things up today. And on the back end here again, the front end now, the bow, we have it going through the first level coating. We are putting on today, which I will show you, we are going to be putting on some Kevlar skid plates onto this thing. It will alleviate that, so I'm going to fix that back end there, and little one there too. Filling in anything that's deep, and trying to bring back a little of the original color at the end of it. I'm not terribly worried. It is a 20-some year canoe, and we will be putting it through its paces and beating on it. But the Royalex core is pretty awesome and pretty tough, and if we keep this thing up in good shape, we'll have this canoe as long as we want it. Alright, we are going to start fixing this little place up front here where it's gone through, and we can get right into the core. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim along the edge here and take off the rough edge so we get into a clean line, and then I will come up to back about here. Any place that's kind of loose I'm going to take out, and then what we will do from there is we will fill it in with an epoxy, and then on top of that we will put on our Kevlar skid plate. So we are going to be using a plastic JB weld. It is a clear two-part epoxy, and it can be sanded, so I will fill it, then I will sand it, so that way that in the there's no void in the skid plate. Nice and brittle plastic. That's why you don't leave these guys in the sun, which this other guy did, and that's okay. Oh yeah, a little soft in there. I'm not going through the inner core, I'm just lightly going through the brittle plastic. Note to anybody else with a Royalex core canoe to put a skid plate on, because if the original guy here would have put a skid plate on it, he would have probably sold it for another $300 extra from what I picked it up for. He wouldn't have had this problem. It's kind of odd that it's in the back and not on the front, but I think he might have dragged the back end here. Okay. Start with about half. I would mix the two up, the hardener in there, and not whip it, but just mix it so there's no little air bubbles. All right. And when I put this in, I'm also going to put in enough that it actually goes up higher than the sides, because I want to be able to sand it. I'm not too worried about gooping around it, because the prep for the skid guard is going to involve me sanding this down. So I'm not terribly concerned. If you were concerned about it, you could mask it off, but I'm not gonna. If you want to go right ahead. Okay, I'm going to mix a little bit more. I'm going to mix the whole tube up, why not? There are some kits out there that you will actually get a couple of uses out of it, because the nozzles will harden up, and that way you can do this in 2 runs. My experience with the JB Weld stuff in these tubes is once you open it, you got to use it. And it's just, they don't have a, it's a one-shot thing. Make more money that way. And this stuff is clear, and they say if you're going to go for more than a 1/4 inch thick, that it's going to start to haze up a little bit on you. It's going to be a little bit more opaque. I'm like, I couldn't care less. This is going to get covered up. Alright. This will be covered up by the skid plate. Okay, we have the Kevlar skid plates all taped up. Quinn over here has been helping me. We have it all taped up here. We are going to pull this off, and in the hole we are going to rough this part up with 50 grit sandpaper. And then we will install this stuff, and it says rough side up. So then we will take this and we will put this rough side up. We'll do a little picture of it going on here. Okay, so we got the Canoe guard. Front one is completely on. Looks like it's drying it pretty good. It's got a little bit of tape on the bottom here. If you really want to see how these go on, there's lots of videos online that you can see these things on YouTube. You can see them being put on fiberglass resin, and impregnates the wonderful Kevlar, and that is the place where all the damage takes place, and that's where the back end damage of this canoe was, right in here. And just a caution, you always want to make sure that there's good ventilation wherever you're using this fiberglass resin, because it really stinks. It's not good. If you have an enclosed space, put a respirator on. I have garage door open and a couple of doors and a couple of windows and a fan blowing in here, so we're good. Also, you got to make sure that when you are putting this stuff in, it's not too hot, because if it's too hot, this stuff will dry on you as fast as you put it down. Alright, so here's the inside. Needs a little bit of a clean. Wood I'm going to take off, and I'm going to sand it all down and refinish it. Yoke. I'll take the seats off too, same thing. Sand it down, clean it all up, restain it and lacquer it. The handles as well too. I'm going to paint these gunnels as well too. They are aluminum gunnels, which is nice to have the metal ones. I'm going to put some black spray paint on that and touch that up in the whole process here as well. But next step will be taking the wood off. Okay, so all the wood parts are off. The seats are off, the yoke. I'll be taking apart a few more little things and start sanding these guys down. And then sanding them. Sanding and staining everything here. Probably not going to show you all that because who wants to see anybody sand and stain something terribly exciting. But I'll let you see the progress of how it's all coming together. Okay, so the seats have been removed. I sanded them down with a 50 grit sandpaper and then I touched them up with a 150. And what I am using is a Minwax product, a teak oil. It's an outside furniture. It's for really hard woods, like, you know, teak and other kind of mahogany. It's a very hard maple that this stuff is. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a product that will be a kind of a one-shot thing. I don't have to top coat it. That will have some UV protection, but will actually soak into the grain of the wood. I've used this on a couple of outdoor products and been very happy with it. And the nice thing about it is once it's all put back together, I could actually, if I wanted to put a little bit more on, actually I could put it on a soft cloth and rub it into the grain of the wood when it's in there if I wanted to kind of touch it up. But you put on one coat, you let it sit for about 10 minutes. If it's dry, you put a little bit more on, and after about a half hour, you wipe off all the excess and you let it sit. It is meant to absorb, you know, right into the grain of the wood. So that's what I've done on that. Once it's all put back together and all assembled again, I will show you some pictures of how that looks. Alright, so we have the Canoe taped off. I'm going to just be painting the Gunnels. They're an aluminum Gunnel, so I have a paint that will stick to it. It's just a spray can. I am going to be, it's a Tremclad, so it will stick to this stuff, and it's just for cosmetic use. These Gunnels are actually in good shape, but I thought since I have everything all off, I might as well just paint them all up, so I've taped everything off. And in the inside, I just taped off for a little overspray. I am not going to paint on the bottom of it. I just want this edge here, so that's just for overspray. I'm going to also paint the end caps. It's going to be a black. And I'm going to give it a wipe down with some paint thinner, some toluene. I am using an oil-based spray paint because I still like oil base for some things. And I'll let you see how it looks after. Okay, second coat of paint is on. You can hear the fan in the background venting up the garage. It's looking pretty good. Here again, this is what I've been using. They are metal Gunnels, so you know, I'll touch them up every once in a while, but I just want them to look a little bit better. If I have it apart, I might as well clean it up, so that way I have this thing as long as I want this thing. Seats are all put back in now. Put in the yoke, the other side braces. It cleaned up pretty nice. I still have to clean out some of the inside. There's a little kind of gunk in the inside here, but no big deal. I'll fix that. Clean it up whenever I feel like it. Kind of got the adjustable seat. I like that. The boy will like that. Now I'm just going to flip it over and use some vinyl protectant on the very back side, and then let it sit for a day and a bit. I think we may even throw it on some water the next day or two here.